Hey guys, this is Ribdigger from Ribdigger Projects, and I'm currently making a video to try and show my process for creating a character from Zbrush and putting it into Unreal Engine. I will highlight the entire process from beginning to end with the snippets that I've recorded already. I will be using Zbrush, Mixamo, Blender, and then to Unreal Engine. Blender and Mixamo are both free to use, so that shouldn't be a problem, and Unreal Engine is pretty much free as well. I will stop the video from time to time to try and explain what I'm doing. I remember the process could be a little bit daunting for me, so I'll pause to try and explain a couple of things to try and help anyone out who doesn't fully understand the process or is looking for a process to use. I am not a professional, I am self-taught, so lots of these I came across from YouTube and forums, so I'm pretty sure there are better ways to do things, but this is the way that I do them and that works for me. So feel free to use these if they work for you. Starting off with Zbrush here, we're going to be working on our character. Over here what we're doing is that we're going to try and create a robe. Now the best way I found to do that from some guy from a forum, which in my opinion worked the best, was to actually duplicate the skin that you have there, the skin mesh, and then select the parts that you don't need and split them by mask. The reason is that you don't get the polygons on the inside, which you will never be seen, they will never be used, so it pretty much just at least halves your polygon count. Okay, just a bit of sculpting. As you can see from the sleeves over here, it doesn't curl in, so those inside polygons are not being used. We literally just took the skin, duplicated, scaled it up, and then just selected the hands and used the subtool, split, and split mask. That helps reduce the polygon count quite a bit. Now, over here what we're going to do is, after exporting the FBX from Zbrush, we're going to try and import it into Mixamo. Like I said, Mixamo is free, you've got the address up there. Just upload your character and this will rig it for you, because the character itself doesn't have any skeleton. For anyone who doesn't know, you cannot animate a mesh by itself, it needs to have a rig, it needs to have a skeleton to it. And Mixamo is what's going to apply that skeleton to our mesh, so that we can actually apply some animations to it. So here I've uploaded the FBX, we're going to click next, and we're going to put the joints where they also got the neck, wrists, elbows, knees and groin. And then from there, Mixamo is actually going to rig up the skeleton for us. Once you've done that, you can then take animations from Mixamo itself, or you can import the rigged character into Blender to actually try to create your own animations, or what I like to do personally is edit them. Okay, so now our character is rigged. You can see her moving over there already. This is where you primarily want to try and check the wrists, the fingers, the shoulders, see if everything's matching up. The elbows look fine, if they're too high up or not. If not, just re-import or change the skeleton from Mixamo itself and you can just rig it again. Once that's done, you download the FBX from Mixamo, and then we're going to upload it into Blender. Now, my reason for uploading it into Blender over here is particularly because of the weight paint. I had noticed that when she was moving one leg, the inside of the other leg was stretching along with it. So I put it into Blender to use the weight paints to try to arrange those, because I did not want one leg to stretch to the other whenever it moves. So essentially what we're doing is we're setting the weight to 1 here, and we're making sure that all these vertices are tied to this bone. And we're going to set the weight paint to 0 for the other one, to make sure that they're not attached to the other bone. And here we're setting to 0, so this will no longer stretch. Don't worry about that. If that happens, that means that the vertex is not tied to anything, it's not tied to any bone whatsoever. So just use weight 1 for the correct bone and paint that, and it should fix. And you can see if we rotate the bone, the leg doesn't pull the other one along with it. There's a bit of a sharp corner there, so we're trying to smooth that out a little bit. I'm pretty sure there are a couple of Blender users here are going to be scoffing at me. I am not a Blender user. I don't know the program very well. I only use it for very few things, so there's not much I can really tell you about Blender itself. But for the uses that I have for it, it seems to work perfectly fine for me. But yeah, I'm pretty sure there are some bad practices here. If you see something wrong, feel free to comment down below. That way we can all try to learn and help each other out. I do not want anyone copying my bad practices. Okay, so once that's done, what we're going to do from here is we're going to export. Now, here I ran into a little bit of an issue when we were trying to do the clothing later. Essentially, you want to go to Scene, set the scale to 0.01 and set it to metric. If you don't, the collision capsules in the physics asset will not work correctly. So just click on Scene, I believe it was, metric, and then set the scale to 0.01. Likely this might become very small, so just press S and type in 100 just to make it 100 times bigger, and the scaling should be fine. Now here we're going to attempt to create clothing data. Try and actually get some physics cloth working into that. I left this footage here just to show you what happens if you don't scale it. As you can see here, the collision capsules are way too big, they're not tied to the bones properly, there's way too little of them, and if you try to regenerate and play with these settings, you might manage to get them looking the correct sizes, but when you actually come to use the simulation for the cloth, it still won't work either way, so you will have to change the scale from Blender. And over here what we're going to do is we're going to paint the cloth so that it starts simulating physics. Personally, what I like to do, my method, is I usually paint the majority of it with a strength of 100, and then closer to the fixed points, which is around that sash for her, I would usually use something like 20 or 10 or whatever works. It's a little bit of trial and error for me. So over here, for instance, we're seeing that it works, but we've got those jagged edges. That's because we didn't set anything above 0 over there, so it's permanently fixed. There was also a collision capsule which was too far back, which I didn't realize, which you'll see in a second. That was because of the collision capsule I just mentioned. That was not by design. There's the collision capsule of her leg, which we reshaped outside the video. And we're just going to rotate those and move them into place so that they're no longer sticking out so far back. Now you will have to double click the activate cloth paint here for this to refresh, otherwise it will keep showing you the wrong image. And now we're going to create the same cloth animation and data for her face sheet. So what we're doing here is we're arranging the collision capsule to try and fit her head better. We don't really care about the back of her head at this point because the back's not going to move with physics, so we don't need it. Word of note. There, you can see through her hood over there. That's because if you did duplicate the skin mesh like I mentioned earlier, you will have to set the material of it to two-sided. Now over here we're using the default material, so it's not ticked. But when you do use your own material, there'll be an option down here, for me anyway, and you have to click two-sided. Otherwise you'll be able to see through it from one side. I'm not really going to go into materials in this video, but if anyone is interested in more tutorials with that, let me know and I'll try and see if I can show you what I know about them. So this is just positioning to be sure that everything doesn't clip through her face or stick way too far out. And so just create and then apply. It's the same thing. The physics asset in our case we only have one. You can split if you've got too many collisions or it's causing a problem for you, but in this case it worked fine. Over there you can see that jutting out. That was because of the collision capsule on her spine, I believe it was spine 2. Which shows over here. So you can see which bone it's tied to. So we're just going to put that back into position and scale it. And here what I was trying to do is just simplify some clothing data to the sides of the hood. In retrospect, I don't think this is particularly needed, but I did it anyway because I thought it might make it look a bit nicer, but not really necessary. And that's pretty much the clothing data done. Now this is the character in-game with the materials and everything applied. This thing, you'll notice I didn't add it into Mixamo. That's because I didn't want it bending along with the rest of her spine bones, her neck, and her head. So I just decided to add it in the character blueprint as a static mesh, and then I just attached it to her lower spine and I set the rotation and location to actually properly stick out of the sash. The animation over here was taken from Mixamo just to test to see how it looks and to show you guys what the character animated looks like. Here's another comparison. The 3 different animations. You'll notice a couple of holes there in her skirt. Those are intended. That's a material thing. Again, if you want a tutorial on that, let me know. It's basically just playing around with an alpha channel. We have some clipping there and here, and those will need to be arranged with the collision capsules. It probably moves them too far forward. Thank you very much for watching. If you guys are interested in any more tutorials of anything I actually know how to do, feel free to ask. If I know how to do it, I'll see if I can make one for you. Feel free to share this video if you liked the content. I am one guy, so any little bit helps. This character you just saw here was being used for a remake of a game I was originally making, which didn't really turn out the way I wanted it, so I'm remaking the whole thing. Feel free to check out the other videos on this channel. I am working on a side scroller I hope to release in the next few months, hopefully. Feel free to check it out. There's a gameplay video of the tutorial levels. Share it if you like it. Any little bit helps. And thank you very much for watching.